Recorded at an undisclosed location known only as the Homestead, you've tuned into Ever Vigilant. Our mission? To encourage and challenge men to prepare, defend, and lead at home and in their communities.
Welcome to Phase 2 of Ever Vigilant. If you've been listening for a long time, I appreciate you sticking around. You will see some subtle differences in the podcast today versus in the past. If you just started listening to this podcast, thanks for jumping aboard. I appreciate you giving this podcast a shot, and don't be afraid to go back. Check out some of the episodes I've done in the past. If you go back into the archives, you can find some great interviews with some really cool guys that had a lot of really good information to drop on us and help us become the men, fathers, and leaders that we want to become. So if you just started listening to this podcast, and as a refresher, since I've been gone a while, to those that listened in the past, my life today versus 12 months ago is drastically different. In fact, unrecognizable. If it weren't for the fact that I still had my beautiful wife, my two great kids, and my ever expanding and growing Anatolian Shepherd Brutus, my life today would be completely unrecognizable. Those four have been the constants in my life over this past year. In the transition from the homestead there in Illinois down here to the Lone Star State, we left a lot behind. Left a lot of things that I felt secure in, everything from career to networks to reputation, all those subtle things that sometimes you don't realize that you've collected and put in your back pocket that are of great value, both to you personally, but in reality, professionally. Left a lot of those things go. And although experience always sticks with you and knowledge always sticks with you, those other intangibles are valuable. And when you lose them, there's a rebuilding period. And just as when the Israelites finally, after 40 years of roaming around in the desert, right, Moses helped get them out of Egypt. And the Israelites complained and bickered about everything and ended up hanging out in the desert for 40 years. And after those 40 years in the desert, they came to the promised land. And when they got to the promised land, that wasn't the end. That was just the beginning of a whole new set of battles, a whole new set of struggles, and a whole new set of opportunities to learn who they were. And that is the position I find myself in today, a consistent battle to better myself and prove to myself and to the new people that I'm dealing with that, as I like to say to myself and remind myself, I didn't come here to get laughed at. Now we'll move forward. By the time we kind of got settled into our place towards the end of last year, the holidays were coming on. I had switched into a new job and things were pretty crazy. So I thought I would kind of back off of the podcast a little bit. And towards the end of the year, I really felt that I needed to take some time off to recalibrate and refocus what Ever Vigilant is. We'll get a little bit more into why exactly I needed to do that as this episode goes on. But I needed to take a little bit of time off. I appreciate those that support this podcast. I appreciate the men that I was able to reach out to for help during that time to kind of get a handle on where this podcast was going to go. Because you see, the mission to challenge and encourage men to prepare, defend, and lead is tattooed on my heart. The mission was never going to change. but how that mission is accomplished, what is done to push that mission forward was what needed to be refocused and recalibrated. The mission flows through my veins with every pump of my heart, but my desire is to not be wasting time and energy and money putting it towards things where I'm not getting a return on my investment. My desire is to be putting my efforts where they will be utilized the most. And that was the focus of having that time off in January. So during that time off, I lost my job early in January, right after Christmas, and had the opportunity to go see Jocko early in January, which was pretty awesome. If you don't know who Jocko Willink is, go check out some of his videos he has up on YouTube. He's a retired Navy SEAL who has written some great books on leadership that I would highly recommend. I will be talking about a lot of books in this episode, and I will leave links to those books in the show notes so that you can find those books and check them out for yourself after you're done listening to the episode. So he's got some great books on leadership. Was able to attend one of his talks here in Austin, and it was great. But one of the things that you got as a bonus for going to his talks was his book, Leadership Strategy and Tactics. That's his new field manual book. Highly recommended. I burned through that, and a lot of really good information in there. But I also ended up finding a book, actually a couple of books that had a big impact on me through January. Both of these books that I'm going to talk a bit about were written by Floyd Woodrow. And I'll read his bio here. It says, having served in the SAS for more than 20 years, Floyd Woodrow has achieved at the very highest levels, inspiring his men in the most demanding of situations. He drove his team to success, ultimately being awarded UK's highest award for gallantry, the Distinguished Conduct Medal. So this first book I read by him was called The Warrior, Strategist, and You: How to Find Your Purpose and Realize Your Potential. This is what it says about the book. The Warrior, the Strategist, and You uses Floyd's deep, practical, innovative, and highly sought-after teachings to show how each of us can unlock both the warrior and the strategist within. Through invaluable lessons drawing on Floyd's own experience, you will learn to harness your discipline and ability to fight for what you believe in, the warrior side, while developing the analytical mindset to plan, deliver, and communicate the important milestones in your objectives, the strategist. This is a philosophy for business, for battle, for sports, for anyone who wants to realize their potential and be the very best they can be. Floyd will help you understand your motivations and overcome your fears. To clearly plan your goals and accomplish that plan boldly and successfully, mentally overcoming life's obstacles. So I just happened upon this book flipping through my Kindle one day. I don't know if it came up recommended or not, but it's a great book because at the end of each chapter, it breaks down into a lot of questions so that you can get a better grasp of who you are, what you believe, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, so that you can evaluate yourself and know where you need to grow. I really enjoyed this book by Floyd Woodrow. He had another book that he had written before that, and this book is called Elite: The Secret to Exceptional Leadership and Performance. This book, I have not finished it yet. I'm 70% of the way through. So here's what it says about this book: guaranteed to boost productivity, team cohesion, individual motivation, and overall leadership. This book contains Floyd's deeply practical, innovative, and highly sought-after teachings His inspiring approach is united with a detailed understanding of theories and psychology that underpin the cutting edge of the training. In the very beginning of this book, Floyd Woodrow is very keen evaluating yourself, understanding yourself, and really getting a grasp on who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, where your strengths and weaknesses are, how do you improve? So one of the things that he recommended early on in this elite book, taking the Briggs Myers personality test. Now, I was a little hesitant to do it. And I was laying in bed reading this book, figured I do not want to get into taking a long personality test. Decided, you know what? It's a Kindle book. I'll hit the link. Let's just see what this test is. I think the test is 40 or 50 questions is all. It will take you less than 4 minutes, maybe 5 tops, to work your way through this personality test. I'll put some links in the show notes to some free versions of the test that he recommended. I was, let's just say, very, very surprised by the findings of the test. It opened up my eyes to myself in a way that I've never experienced. I understood a lot of my quirks. I understood a lot of what I'm different than other people. But what helped me was to see myself the way that other people see me. So a brief history on the Briggs Myers personality test. Just after World War II, Isabel Myers and her mother, Catherine Briggs, dusted off Carl Jung's psychological types and created a questionnaire aimed at identifying the different personalities. They called the questionnaire the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the MBTI. So the test breaks down between 4 different tendencies. These combined types are expressed by 4 letters to give 16 possible combinations. So you are judged on 4 different characteristics. Most of the tests will kind of give you a percentage of where you fall in on those 4 different characteristics. But the names of these characteristics are a little difficult to understand, are probably the most difficult part to understand of this whole personality test. So Floyd Woodrow in his book does a great job of breaking down what those mean. So I'm going to read through that right away. So you're going to be judged, first of all, if you're extroverted or introverted. It's actually about energy, where you get it from. Extroverts get their energy from interacting with people and activities, whereas introverts focus on their inner world of ideas and experiences and get their energy from within. Sensory or intuitive. This is category 2. Is less clear because you can interpret the 2 words in similar ways. But Myers and Briggs meant by sensory is being observant of the real individual physical things around you and aware of the details that make up a picture. By intuitive, they meant imaginative, more focused on the big picture and its overall abstract or theoretical meaning. Thinking, feeling. The third is clearer. By thinking, they meant tough-minded, tending towards being objective or impersonal with others. Feeling implies more softness in being sympathetic or personal with others. The fourth is judging or perceiving. It's slightly confusing again. Judging means making and keeping schedules, whereas perceiving means being more open to options and alternatives and more willing to go with the flow. So I'm sure there are more than one of you out there wondering, where in the world did Joe Prim end up in this personality test? Well, I am an INTJ. Introverted, intuitive, thinking, and judging. So let me read through the beginning of this, and you will begin to have a little bit of a better understanding of what I was talking about when in January, I needed time to recalibrate and refocus and get a better understanding of what I was doing and why, on one hand, it's a strength of mine, but on the other hand, can very, very easily get me bogged down into things that really don't matter that much. It says, to outsiders, INTJs may appear to project an aura of definiteness or self-confidence. The self-confidence, sometimes mistaken for simple arrogance by the less decisive, is actually a very specific rather than general in nature. Its source lies in the specialized knowledge systems that most people of this type start building at an early age. When it comes to their own area of expertise, the INTJs can have several. They will be able to tell you almost immediately whether or not they can help you, and if so, how. INTJs know what they know, and perhaps still more importantly, they know what they don't know. People of this type are perfectionists with a seemingly endless capacity for improving upon anything that takes their interest. What prevents them from becoming chronically bogged down in this pursuit of perfection is the pragmatism so characteristic of this type. INTJs simply, often ruthlessly, the criterion, does it work? To everything from their own research efforts to the prevailing social norms, this is in turn produces an unusual independence of mind, freeing them from the constraints of authority, convention, or sentiment for its own sake. INTJs are known as system builders of the types, perhaps in part because they possess the unusual trait combination of imagination and reliability. In its broadest terms, what INTJs do tends to be what they know. Personal relationships, though, can be the INTJ's Achilles heel. While they are capable of caring deeply for others, usually a select few, and are willing to spend a great deal of time and effort on a relationship, the knowledge and self-confidence that makes them so successful in other areas can suddenly abandon or mislead them in interpersonal situations. This happens in part because many INTJs do not readily grasp the social rituals. For instance, they tend to have little patience and less understanding for such things as small talk. To complicate matters, people of this type are usually extremely private and can often be naturally impassive as well, which makes them easy to misread and misunderstand. I was able to quickly see, taking this 5-minute test of 50 questions, I had a fairly honest picture of myself printed right out on that page before me. It helped me understand why things that I have seen as a strength can also be a weakness. And that is very much what happened in January. I needed that time off. For the same time, I have learned that I need to be careful that I don't get bogged down, as I said earlier, in things that don't really matter that much. That I keep moving this mission forward and evolve the mission, but at the same time, keep pushing it forward. Some of you guys may have taken these tests in the past. If you haven't taken the test, for sure, go out and take one. Like I said, I'll have links here in the show notes. If you have taken them in the past, don't just blow by this opportunity. Take one of these tests again. Take it with new eyes. Take the test with a different attitude of what can I learn about myself? How can these things that at work, they may see them as a strength, but at home, they're a weakness. Or these things that at home are a strength, when I'm building relationships in the community or with others, they're a weakness. To get a better grasp of how you can relate to others so that they can better relate to you, and so that you can get yourself in a position to where you can keep a mission moving forward instead of getting bogged down asking yourself questions that maybe aren't the right questions to be asking. So really the heart of the matter of what's going on here with Ever Vigilant is a desire to challenge and encourage men to prepare, defend, and lead. That is my intention, and that's what I want to do here with this podcast. You will never become the father that you can be, the husband that you can be, the leader that you can be without getting outside of your comfort zone, without pushing yourself to become that. We can sit back on the couch. We can get into our comfort zone, whether that's in our cubicle at work, whether that comfort zone is in the recliner at home, whether that comfort zone is the pew, your favorite spot at your local church 3 times a week. Your comfort zone is your comfort zone. And until you're stretching yourself and bringing yourself outside of that comfort zone, you have no idea who you can be. You have no idea how awesome of a father or of a husband or of a leader that you can be. Today, I stretched myself out of my comfort zone. I went to a Stop the Bleed class. Never really had an opportunity like I had to go to this class today, but I'm the guy who's skittish around blood. Blood is not my thing. I've passed out donating blood. Being around blood, that's not my jam. But I decided, what's more important? Am I going to let that fear of blood keep me away from learning something that could help save the life of my son, my daughter, a neighbor, somebody else that I care about? No. So I went to the class. It was an excellent opportunity to play around with tourniquets, to see some new products that I hadn't used or seen in the past, to get to stuff some wounds, fake wounds, right? And it was a great opportunity. Got to meet some new people, got to hang out with my man, Steve McAdam from Stand Strong. But again, get outside of your comfort zone. Until you stretch yourself, you cannot expect to grow. Until you put yourself into adversity, you can't expect to become better. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you guys. Big shout out to the Wolfpack. You guys played a big role in keeping this mission on track and helping recalibrate and helping to refocus this mission. If you want to be a part of the Wolfpack and help push this mission forward, help pay for what's going on, help pay for the missionaries that we support, jump in, go to patreon.com/evervigilant. And as always, hold fast, men, and God bless.
For the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack.